Hello and welcome to Iron Africa here on France 24. I'm Fraser Jackson. Here are the headlines this evening. Farmgate catches up to Cyril Ramaphosa, calls grow for the South African president to step down after an independent probe finds grounds for possible impeachment proceedings. We'll talk to our correspondent in Cape Town very shortly. December 1st is World AIDS Day. Our team in Kenya have a report on one country where the epidemic is particularly prevalent, and we discuss what more can be done to get a handle on the disease. And renewed fighting threatens a fragile ceasefire in eastern DR Congo. Kinshasa accuses M23 rebel soldiers of massacring 50 civilians just days ago. It's good to have you with us. Tonight, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is in crisis talks with his ruling ANC party as pressure on him builds to step down. It comes after a probe concluded that impeachment proceedings could be launched against him. It all stems from a 2020 robbery at his farm in which it's claimed $4 million was stolen from Ramaphosa, who then allegedly abused his office and ordered the kidnapping and silencing of the perpetrators.
Of the report.
This is the report that could change South Africa's presidency. Compiled by an independent panel, it's now been handed over to Parliament to determine whether President Cyril Ramaphosa should be impeached over what's been dubbed as Farmgate. The Commission say its findings were collected without fear or prejudice.
Dragging the president before an impeachment process is a huge decision. It cannot be done on flimsy grounds.
In June, Ramaphosa was accused of concealing a theft from 2 years ago, $4 million in cash at his private farm. And bundles of cash were found stuffed inside his sofa. Whilst the South African leader confirms the robbery took place, he says the money was from buffalo sales and staunchly denies any cover-up.
And are you concerned that this matter may lead to your premature removal from office?
No.
Because of the citizens?
No, I think I've put my case forward, and of course, let us leave it to the panel to come up with the outcome.
The scandal has overshadowed Ramaphosa's bid for re-election, especially as his party, the African National Congress, is just weeks away from selecting its new leader. The report will be examined and debated in the National Assembly next week, although chances of impeachment are slim, given the ANC's comfortable dominance in Parliament, and presidential impeachment requires a two-thirds majority vote.
Well, to pour over this some more, let's bring in Nadine Thurin, our correspondent in South Africa. Nadine, thank you so much for being with us tonight here on France 24. Nadine, this has been building for some months. Ramaphosa has denied any wrongdoing. He says $500,000 was stolen, not $4 million. But questions still remain over where that cash truly came from and why it was stashed in a sofa.
Yes, at the moment, Ramaphosa's options are not looking very great. All indications are that he will not be the president of South Africa for much longer. So he could decide to resign tomorrow morning before the ANC's Executive Council meets to discuss their decision. But the chances are that he won't, because the former President Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki both waited until they were recalled by their own party before they resigned. He might also not be recalled and stay on until Tuesday, when Parliament can decide to vote on his impeachment. He might still survive that impeachment vote because his party has a majority in Parliament. And then he is likely to not be elected as the ANC's next president at the party's electoral conference in 2 weeks' time, wherein the party will then select their own new leader. But there have been reports that Ramaphosa does not mind resigning. He said that he won't object to it if he's requested to do. And then there are also reports that many of his allies and party members are urging him to take a different, a braver step and fight back against the reports, allegations, and challenge those findings in court. Some of his advisors have allegedly called it flimsy. So the legal challenge is also an option. But what we do know is if he does resign or get recalled. In the meantime, we'll see Deputy President David Mabuza probably being sworn in as the caretaker or interim president of the country. And Mabuza does not have a wonderfully clean past himself. He's got quite a murky past connected to quite a few allegations of fraud and even political murders. But those seem to be South Africa's options for president right now.
Well, Nadine, let's dig a little deeper. How likely is this to play out in the coming days? What are the next steps?
Well, everyone is waiting to hear from the ANC's National Executive Council. That will clear up everything, and they are expecting to address the media on Friday afternoon. And whatever they decide will make everything clear to South Africans. Some parliamentary, or the main opposition party, the DA, has even called for a completely overhaul and national elections, claiming that all the ANC's candidates are potentially corrupt. But the big decision is everyone is waiting to see if Ramaphosa will decide to fight back and if he will accept his recall by the National Executive Committee. We expect to have that answer by the end of Friday afternoon, but Ramaphosa could still resign by the end of Monday and wait until Parliament make the decision. So it's going to be quite a stressful weekend for South Africans.
It's definitely going to be an interesting couple of days. Nadine, thank you so much for joining us there live from South Africa. Well, despite ongoing peace talks, violence is continuing in eastern DR Congo. On Thursday, Kinshasa accused the M23 rebel group of having massacred 50 civilians 2 days prior. A 5-day truce appears to have been shaken too on Thursday after fighting between the two sides erupted in the area. After years of relative calm, the M23 rebels saw a resurgence 1 year ago, which Kinshasa partly blames on neighbouring Rwanda. Well, Rwanda denies those allegations, and despite ongoing peace talks, as I said, even accuses Felix Tshisekedi's government of backing other rebel groups in the area. On Wednesday, Rwandan President Paul Kagame hit out at his western neighbour in a lengthy speech. Our correspondent Clément de Roma tells us more.
This Wednesday, Rwandan President Paul Kagame addressed Parliament for over an hour, during which he commented on multiple aspects of the situation in neighboring DR Congo. He began by rejecting the accusations of the Congolese government that Rwanda was aiding the M23 rebels in the country's east, continuing that Rwanda was neither the cause of the problems nor seeking to monopolize its neighbors' resources. As peace talks brokered by the East African community continue, Kagame said his Congolese counterpart, Felix Tshisekedi, does not share his will for peace. He also accused DR Congo's president of taking advantage of the conflict ahead of upcoming elections.
This problem can be resolved. For a country headed for elections next year is not trying to create grounds for an emergency so that elections don't take place. Not that he won the first elections, as we know.
The accusations by the Rwandan president comes days after DRC's Electoral Commission set the date for the country's next vote. The presidential election is scheduled for December 20th, 2023. Faced with a skeptical opposition, the government has asserted its ability to stick to the deadline.
Well, December 1st is World AIDS Day. Of the 34 million people living with HIV/AIDS worldwide, just under 70% live in sub-Saharan Africa. Kenya has the 5th highest number of persons living with HIV in the world, with Homa Bay County being a particular hotspot. Here, women have little choice but to trade sex for fish. Our correspondents Vivian Wandera and Elodie Cousin report.
On the shores of Lake Victoria, fish is traded for sex. Traditionally in this region, women are barred from fishing, making them dependent on men to run their businesses. This is how Cynthia got infected with HIV.
The first time the doctor pronounced for me that, Cynthia, you are positive. I fainted. It was a sad day for me. Actually, I was almost killing myself.
Homa Bay leads Kenya in HIV prevalence at 18.6%. Due to continued community stigma, many people shy away from treatment, making it difficult to lower the infection rate.
No one should skip a dose, not even for a day. If you do, you must tell us.
The national HIV prevalence rate among women is twice as high than in men. Tested less, they unknowingly infect their partners, who learn about their status while pregnant.
Whoever comes for the antenatal clinics must be tested. It is a must. So when they test, that is when they find out that they are HIV positive.
Through testing pregnant mothers, mother-to-child transmission rates have dropped from 16% to 8% in 9 years. However, according to this NGO, more needs to be done to reach the national rate of 5.2%.
With the young women that we're working with, you find like you've been giving them condom, they are given PrEP and PEP, but they still get positive because of economical vulnerability. So that program came in after a conversation whereby they said, I feel exposed because I don't have a voice economically.
Despite the challenges in Kenya, 79.4% of HIV-positive people know their status. The main goal is to now have 90% of those who are ill know their serology to end AIDS-related stigma.
Well, that's it for this edition. Stay tuned to France 24. There's much more news coming up very shortly.